Thank you everyone for coming. Welcome to the Cambridge and Manchester Innovation Forum webinar series. My name is Izu, and I am the head of Innovation Forum Cambridge. So today we'll be talking about our very important competition called Imagine If, which is a global competition and accelerator program for science-based ventures. Feel free to type your questions in the chat, but please be specific to whom your question is directed to, and that will be really helpful for us. And also, I just wanted to let you know that we're recording this event, and we will be sharing this soon on our social media. Okay, so I'll first say a few words about the Innovation Forum. The Innovation Forum drives innovative technology development by connecting innovators, industry, and investors. We're supporting by a global network of 10,000 people, and our goal is to improve human health and well-being by translating cutting-edge science into different products and services. Just a quick word on our next two events. So we have one event about COVID-19, about the COVID-19 response, which will happen on the 7th of September, 2020, and our next event the following month is on 15th of October 2020, which is on climate crisis and innovation. So without further ado, can we please let Ivan take the lead?
Thank you. So let me share my screen. 1 second, please. All right. Can you see the slides? Just verified?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So I'll put it just in that to don't take by one. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Ivan, and I'm very happy to share with you my Imagine If experience. Thank you to the organizing team for the opportunity to motivate the next generation of life science leaders. I have prepared some slides to talk about my journey, the application process, and why you should apply to Imagine If. I hope you find it useful. So before we start, I will explain a little bit what is Imagine If in my own words. And here in the picture, you can see the end result. Imagine If is a pre-accelerator program for life science, which offer to a high-level network tailored mentorship for your project and for your personal development, and the opportunity to win a cash prize. In 2019, it was 10K. Imagine If selects teams by regions and holds regional finals where competitors pitch their projects. The winners of the local finals go to the global final to pitch in front of investors and industry. It is an exciting opportunity that you should not miss. I mean, you can see right in the middle is the founder of Jelly Drops holding the big check. And honestly, I believe that the money is not the most valuable thing in the competition. Great, so to formally introduce myself, as I said, my name is Ivan. Today I'm 28 years old, but I'm turning 29 this next Sunday. I'm fully prepared to squeeze my last 20. I'm from Monterrey, Mexico. If you don't know what it is, it's just a very hot place in Mexico. Now I'm living in the UK, to be precise, in Edinburgh, Scotland. It is very likely that you know where it is, but if you don't, it's a very wet place in the UK. I always make fun of that. Right, to give you some context about my background, I have a bachelor degree in biobusiness engineering, which I feel that was built to suit for me. I always like the idea of being the middleman between the lab and the market. But to gain more deeper technical insight, this past year I finished a master's degree in synthetic biology and biotech at the University of Edinburgh, which was key for applying to Imagine If. Some of my previous working experience include working in the private equity sector as financial analyst and simultaneously as head of business strategy for a biotech spin-off named Atkae, which I will be introducing on the next slides. Great. All right, so to give you a better sense of my timing regarding Imagine If, I make this timeline. In the summer of 2016, I received my bachelor degree, and straight away I was invited to join the spin-off at CAE with the purpose to apply to a grant for scaling up an agri-tech application. In January 2017, we were notified that ATCAE won the grant, and I formally enrolled as a head of business strategy. And after almost 2 years of hard work in ATCAE, I moved to the UK to enroll the Master of Synthetic Biology and Biotechnology at the Uni of Edinburgh in the summer of 2018. And after a couple of months, I met a professor that told me about Imagine If, and he encouraged me to apply. So my application was sent by mid-October 2018. By December of that year, I received the email saying that we had been selected to participate in the Northwest Finals at Manchester, and that I can choose 2 mentors from the top-notch pool that they had. I was honestly super excited about the opportunity, and the mentoring team was amazing. By the end of February 2019, I took a train off to Manchester and I pitched the project. I was very surprised to be the winner that night and moving to the next phase that were the finals. From there, I had access to 2 additional mentors from the pool, which were crucial for refining the project and my pitch. And in the summer of 2019, I traveled to Cambridge to participate in the global finals. Like, the experience was a complete blast. Like, I really enjoyed the process. It was amazing. And yeah, then I had my master. All right, so let me jump more into the details. Since I participate in Imagine If representing ATCAE, I will give you a brief description of what we were working on. So ATCAE is a yeast bioengineering company specialized in Pichia pastoris. It's a protein expression platform. ATCAE was founded by 2 senior scientists, Jose Maria Viader and Marta Guerrero, which have broad experience in biotech. Here's a picture from one of our longing working journeys and our favorite microorganism, Pichia pastoris. The most advanced project on the pipeline of ATCAE is an agri-tech application named SciMep. Yeah, so as we know, with the growing population, there is an urgency for producing sustainable food, and the plant-based feedstock for animal production has many nutrients that cannot be metabolized. One of those nutrients is phosphate, and ATCAE developed 4th generation phytas and an enzymatic formulation that release the natural phosphate in the feedstock, maximizing the nutritional value of plant-based products and reducing costs for farmers and animal producers in a sustainable way. So the project that we execute as part of the winning grant that I mentioned before was divided into 2 sections: technical, for taking the technology from bench scale to industrial demonstration, and the market to commercialize technology. The technical side includes strain development, bioprocess optimization, the enzymatic formulation, and very importantly, benchmarking the prototype or the final product against other competitors. On the market side, which I was responsible for, included market research, identifying potential commercialization pathways, and making an evaluation model of the technology under different scenarios, mainly B2C and B2B, and proposing a strategy to bring the technology to the market. The project's still running, but some IP challenges need to be tackled before to keep moving forward. Right, so regarding the Imagine If experience, here are my top 3 gains. The mentorship was incredible, like, honestly, it's top gain. In the first round, David, that he's co-hosting the webinar today, helped me to properly articulate the value proposition and to increase my pitching confidence with neuro-linguistic programming, something very valuable that I didn't expect to get from Imagine If. Joseph, a long-track lawyer with expertise in life science from HLL, provided us key intellectual property insight that we were struggling to understand. And in the second round, Sarah, with her background in theater, speech, and drama, why not, helped me to polish my non-native speaker pronunciation and teach me how to make a perfect pitch engaging with the audience. Sophie had a strong background in marketing and helped us to determine pricing strategies for the commercialization process that were key. The second most valuable gain was the visibility that Imagine If offers as a platform. It is not easy to get attention for investors or potential partners, and this program offered that resource. And the third was the high-level network. I meet people from industry, but more importantly, people from accelerator programs and venture capital firms, which are the guys that we're looking for. All right, so to make it real, here are some cool pictures with David and Joseph. The first picture with David was in the Manchester finals. The second with Joseph at the Scottish Life Science Award here in Edinburgh. Lovely evening both. And here a couple of pictures of the global finals at Health Horizon in Cambridge. Great, so to wrapping up, here are the reasons why you should apply to Imagine If. The first is that the local and global finals are an incredible opportunity to have real exposure to industry and investors. Pitching in front of a big audience is a great experience. Even if for any reason the Imagine If will run virtually, the most valuable part for me was on the practicing process with the mentors rather than the 5-minute speech that was on the finals. The Health Horizons is an expensive event and global is go for free. That's another good point. Your team can have access to lab space. There is an opportunity of winning non-dilutive capital, which will be the funding that you need to move into the next step of your project. And it is a unique opportunity to sharpen your project and your CV. Just before closing, here are some tips to make a great application. Be concise with your application. Synthesis is key. If you can express your idea clearly and concise, it is a sign that you know what you're doing, and you will make your application easier to read, which is something well appreciated by the evaluation team. Explain why you or your team and how Imagine If will help you to achieve your goals. It is very important to explain that your project is aligned with the Imagine If goals, and that the catalyzer effect that this competition can provide you over the project. Apply even if your project is in an early stage. In my case, there was work behind that guy, but that doesn't mean that raw ideas showing disruptive potential cannot be successful. And last, don't lose the positive spirit if you are not selected. You can always try again. In my personal experience, I have been rejected from many applications. Just keep trying. Oops. Thank you, and feel free to ask any question in the Q&A.
Gemma, would you like to take some questions?
Yeah, sure. I can see one question in the chat from our audience at the moment, from Saley. So what challenges do you face if your project is really early stage, and do you need a working prototype or an MVP? Ivan, are you muted by any chance?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I started talking, I was muted. Sorry about that. Great. So, like regarding the question, yeah, I believe that if you are in an early stage, the most important thing that you do is to try to envision your product, but make the customer discovery first. That means to try to engage with your potential customers, even if before you have an MVP. Like, it's ideal if you can have an MVP. But for example, I have some friends that their MVP was a virtual reality 3D render, or it was a explainer video, or just a plastic model printed with with these 3D printers. So try to engage with your customer as soon as you can. That's my advice. and yeah, like if you can have an MVP to test is amazing.
Thank you very much, Ivan. I think we will keep all of the questions, keep the rest of the questions during Q&A. David, would you please start sharing your slide?
Okay, how's that?
Wonderful.
Okay, great. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about Inventia, but that's just where I'm working at the moment. I'll give you a very short background on who we are and what we do, just simply because it's relevant somewhat to the competition. So Inventia was founded by Aldo and Valerie de Leonibus in 2008, and they were really keen to build the available innovation expertise for new companies to market. So we generally tend to support companies anything from TRL3 all the way up to full commercialization and product launch. And we specialize quite a lot in Innovate UK and European grants, helping companies to apply for those sorts of grants and helping them to commercialize their products and take them to market. So you can see that the sorts of things that we do are very relevant for the competition. Very briefly, I just want to spend a moment on a program called Innovate to Succeed, which is an Innovate UK and European Union program at the moment. At some point in the future, it'll become an Innovate UK program. We don't know what it's going to be called. It might be called something like Innovate to Grow. But in some form or other, there will be support available to organisations and companies that are scaling through innovation. So maybe it's something to consider after you've won the competition or when you've started to commercialise and grow your company. That support is available free to use from Innovate UK. So we provide that service to Northwest-based companies, but there are also Innovate to Succeed is a UK-wide program, so you can access that if you're a UK registered company. So before I move on then, let me just introduce myself in a bit more detail. There's me, albeit slightly less of a beard before COVID all happened. And to give you a bit of background on my experience, I started off at AstraZeneca working in IT, and then later on as a senior innovation project manager, helping to commercialise and to build various innovations across different aspects of AstraZeneca, mostly technical related rather than science based. I then went to work for a company called R. Donnelley, which is probably the biggest American company that you've never heard of, because they do a lot of print management for companies such as Barclays, Prudential, and of course Barclays don't want you to know that R. Donnelley used to print their statements. So I was head of innovation ultimately for R. Donnelley, which involved doing a lot of client work as well as internal innovation programs. I then decided that I was going to have a go at setting up as an innovation consultant, albeit not amazingly successfully. So I set up a company called Richmond Innovation and had a number of different clients across the Northwest, helping them to do various innovation related and project related projects. I then went to work for Inventia as a senior innovation advisor, as I am still there now, and in fairly short order became their head of innovation consultancy. So I'm hoping that the experience that I've had in the last 10 to 12 months at Inventia will be very relevant for the mentorship on the ImagineIF program. And also, not forgetting, I was a mentor last year as well with Ivan and another group on last year's ImagineIF. So in total, I've probably had around 20 years delivering innovation, working with clients. I'm also a bit of an agile evangelist, various different qualifications across project management, agile, innovation, and coaching as well. So that gives you a bit of background about me. So what's my approach? So I was asked to tell you a little bit about my approach to coaching. So the first 4 bullet points are really about how I generally go about coaching, not just with Imagineif, but with my Innovate to Succeed clients, with my clients through my business, and also with non-innovation related clients. I used to do a bit of life coaching as well as hypnosis. And I've always had a fairly similar approach. Some of the points there are relevant for personal coaching, some less so. But really, for innovation-related coaching, I'm very commercially focused. For me, it's got to be about commercial exploitation. So perhaps I'm less experienced on the scientific side, less knowledge about that, but it's always about trying to find value for the client. I do have some science background in that I spent 10 years at AstraZeneca, so I understand the science language, if you like. But science, I think, is your business. You're the experts on that side. My business is really commercialization and innovation. Value-driven outputs, I think, are really important. So I'm always looking for value. So everything that you do should be focused on the maximum outcomes or the maximum effect. And Ivan mentioned earlier, something that's really important is to build that relationship with customers early on. And the reason for that is to understand what is the value to them. So when you're building a business or creating an idea for a new business, it's really important to think about the value that you're bringing to your end customers. My objective is to get you pitch ready for this competition particularly. So the pitch is really your opportunity to demonstrate the value of your idea to either the investors or the judges. So that's really the objective for the mentoring for this particular competition, is to try and get you pitch ready. And that could be a number of things. That might be helping you to develop your pitch deck, or it might be coaching you around presenting, or refining your value proposition. I will be a critical friend, which means I'm not going to give you an easy time, but if your proposition has weaknesses, I'm not afraid to tell you, but at the same time, I'm also going to help you strengthen it. I'm not going to be too cruel. I'm here to mentor you, not bully you. So to give you a bit of background on this, a bit more background on the sorts of skills that I can bring, the commercialization of innovation, as Eventia, that is really our bread and butter. That's what we do. We take innovations and we help companies to commercialize them and to take them to market, whether that value is financial or otherwise. Any idea still needs to demonstrate value. And my background is, I have a strong background in project management, and I'm somewhat of an agile evangelist, so hopefully I can help you around the planning, the risk management, the business plans, and all that good stuff. I've also got a lot of experience in the various tools and techniques that startup companies use. So I heard somebody mention MVP, or minimum viable product. If you're not aware, that's part of the lean startup methodology. And there are also other models associated with lean startups, such as value proposition design and business model canvas. I wouldn't say an expert, but I am certainly very experienced in using these tools with a large number of clients and partners. I've got a bit of an accountancy background as well, so when it comes to things like cash flow forecasts backed up with evidence, that's an area that I can help with. I think demonstrating how your business is going to make money is often very important. Even for charitable type businesses, it's still important to demonstrate that value somehow. So I can certainly help with forecasting things like sales and expenses. Intellectual property, I'm going to come back to in a bit more detail, but it is needless to say it's incredibly important. I have some experience of doing intellectual property. In fact, 2 weeks ago I was on the IPO masterclass, so a fairly recent experience around IP. So I should be able to help you a little bit there as well. I've lost count of the number of pitches that I've sat in on, so certainly I have some awareness of the difficult questions that judges and investors are going to ask, and preparing you to be able to answer those questions is something that I can help with. And I've mentioned before, I've done a lot of coaching and mentoring over the years. and hypnosis, although don't be concerned, I'm not going to hypnotize you. But certainly it all relates back to coaching experience. So I've done coaching within corporations, with one-to-one with clients, and through business coaching as well. So that's my background. I thought also I'd perhaps give you a few hints and tips relating to the competition as well. So I don't want to spend too long on this slide because I know some other people are going to talk about it too, but there's a few things I thought I'd cover off with you. First point there, get yourself on LinkedIn if you're not already. LinkedIn is a great channel to start building your network and your personal profile. And I was quite surprised by a number of the applicants last year that weren't on LinkedIn. I think it's a really great place to promote yourself and start to build a professional image of who you are, what your business is, what you do, what your experience is. So maybe think of it as your life canvas of professional achievements and start building that profile. Protect your IP. I said I was going to come back to IP, and I am. It's really important. So get NDAs or non-disclosure agreements in place if you're sharing the detail of your idea. One thing I like to say is the first rule about your invention is do not disclose your invention. The second rule about your invention is do not disclose your invention unless you have some protection in place. So at a minimum, make sure you've got NDAs in place with the various people that you're talking to. I know scientists and academic professionals are very keen to publish their inventions and to tell the world about them. But if you're intending to commercialize them, make sure that you have some intellectual property protection in place. It's worth mentioning that the IPO has several examples of NDAs on their website, and there's a link there if you want to get a standard form NDA template. And I would use that link as well rather than just download one from the internet, because the terms and conditions for perhaps a US-based NDA might be different from a UK-based one. So use the .gov link there to download a standard NDA if you need it. Just in terms of your application, think about the needs of your investor and your customer. Again, it's just to reiterate what Ivan said. What's the value that they're going to get from your idea? How do you know that that's going to be their value? Have you tested that in the market, or have you tested it by talking to your potential customers? Be realistic about your competitors as well. Quite often I've seen many applications that say that they don't think that they have any competitors because their idea is so innovative and so different and so unique that there is no competition. Well, that's not true. There is always competition. That competition might not be directly aligned, but it might be indirect competition in some way. So be realistic about that. I think another area as well that is often missing is to create an emotional hook. So what do I mean by that? Well, this could be a picture or a statement from a customer or a patient or a statistic, but it should be something that the audience can relate to, and it's going to be something that makes them realize that your idea is going to have real human impact. So just on to pitching, and I'm going to whiz through this because you're not quite at the stage of pitching yet. You're at the stage of applying, but just a few points that I made here. Back up your assumptions. Financial models should be based on sound data, for example. Be prepared to explain your assumptions because you're definitely going to be questioned on them if there's any weakness in there. Be concise and compelling. Make your pitch deck attractive to look at, not too wordy, so that people aren't looking at slides like the one I've just done there with loads of bullet points. Make use of images and keep it to the point. Use photos. Again, you can create that emotional hook on your pitch deck, maybe by putting photos of patient experiences, obviously with their permission, and using testimonials as well from patients or customers or clients. Practice as well. Practice. When it comes to doing your pitch, if you've run through it 5 or 6 times, it's going to be fluid and second nature. If you've practiced it once, you're going to make mistakes and you're going to struggle. So just go over it over and over again, especially if you're not a seasoned presenter. I think that's really important. And also get comfortable with presenting. So I'm quite happy for you as a mentor to practice your pitch with me. And again, I'll be a critical friend on that. The other thing, the final point there, is prepare to answer difficult questions. Don't avoid them. If there are gaps or weaknesses in your proposition, which there'll be gaps and weaknesses in every proposition, just try to prepare for that by preparing answers for the difficult questions that you are invariably going to get. And I think that's probably me. I don't know if I was 10 minutes or not. I did feel like I rushed through that a little bit. So I'll hand back to the Innovation Forum.
Thank you very much, David. Sohaib, could you take the mic? I'm very pleased to introduce to you Sohaib, who will be a judge for our Cambridge Imagine If competition.
Thank you very much. Apologies, I don't have any slides to share, but hopefully I'll be able to make some remarks which are nonetheless useful. So how do you all do? I'm Sohaib Mir. I'm an investment director with ELSA Ventures. Background is that I'm a medical doctor with a PhD in CNS repair, practiced medicine at Addenbrooke's Hospital, and then transitioned into the financial side of healthcare via the MPhil in Bioscience Enterprise at the University of Cambridge. Then moved into investment banking with Preller Weinberg Partners, working on M&A in the healthcare space, and then moved to Cambridge Innovation Capital, where I spent 5 years helping to spin companies out of the University of Cambridge. So I'm just starting my video, apologies for that. Helping to spin companies out of the University of Cambridge, and also investing in companies that are physically located within the Cambridge cluster. So got quite a lot of experience really in working with university spin-outs, tech transfer, addressing some of the challenges that early stage companies face. I then joined ELSA Ventures about 1 year ago. ELSA Ventures is a relatively new investment fund established by a gentleman called Alec Safarian. Alec was formerly the CEO and the founder of a large clinical research organization, which he sold to TPG about 3 years ago now for a large 9-figure number. And Alec owned a decent chunk of the company, and therefore through the transaction became an ultra high net worth individual. Alec subsequently set up ELSA Ventures, and we've got a substantial management commitment in place, which has helped us to make some initial investments, get a team together as a prelude to raising a larger amount of capital, and we're currently in the throes of doing so. We invest exclusively in therapeutics companies from the preclinical stage up to and including phase 1. We're fairly agnostic in terms of the therapeutic areas that we invest in and the modalities that we invest in. We look to write check sizes of around $3 to $5 million in a Series A round, and we'll look to invest circa $10 to $12 million over the life of a company. Just to give you an example of the flavor of businesses that we invest in, the last investment we made, which was actually a deal that I led on, was from a spin out from KU Leuven in the immuno-oncology space, based upon world-class science and cutting-edge research around the ability of perivascular macrophages to modulate the tumor microenvironment. And this was a co-investment with Pfizer Ventures, Polaris Partners, and Droya Oncology Ventures, working with a very, very seasoned executive chairman who sold his last company to Roche. So if any of you budding entrepreneurs are looking to set up a therapeutics company, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I'll be delighted, to have a discussion with you around, the proposition and how to help shape the, the business plan. Also, we are very happy to discuss propositions at an early stage. If you do have something which is compelling, it never is too early to get the ball rolling with investors and look to build up that relationship for the long term, so that when you do come to raise capital, it's not a standing start, and there is an established relationship there which which you can leverage. I'll just spend a little bit of time now on, in my opinion, what it is that makes a good application. I think just as an overarching comment when it comes to entrepreneurship, you know, practice is very, very important, and particularly when it comes to pitching. And in terms of, you know, real kind of left field questions that investors ask, it's really not the case, certainly in the pitches that I've been involved in and sat in on, that investors ask too many left field questions. You know, most of the questions that investors ask are pretty much, you know, template driven. And it's important in any application to imagine if to really cover the basics and to cover the basics well. The pitches and applications which tend to go badly are really situations where the basics really just haven't been clearly thought out. So, you know, simple things like, you know, a very, very clear and crisp elucidation of the market need is of paramount importance. And this is good for you as well as budding entrepreneurs. You're all, you know, motivated individuals who potentially could go out and do something, you know, far easier than starting a company and doing a startup, right? There are far easier ways to make a living, far easier ways to make money than to go through the onerous process of starting a business and you know, taking the risky path forward with regards to entrepreneurship. So when it comes to doing market research, you know, always think to yourself that you're doing that market research as much for yourself as for any potential investor that you are going to stand up in front of. You owe it to yourself to really know the numbers. You're going to put your heart and soul into this proposition. There are going to be times where you will come up against adversity and difficulty. You know, raising capital is not easy. Building a team is not easy. Recruiting at the early stage is not easy when you don't have, you know, generous salary packages that you can offer incoming executives. You really do need to kind of sell them the vision and sell them the dream at that very early stage. So, and these are all, you know, difficult things. So you can really help yourself by understanding clearly what the unmet need is that you're going to solve, and then how that unmet need translates quantitatively into a market opportunity. So, you know, really get familiar with the numbers, really get close to the market, and, you know, speak to individuals who are, you know, in the relevant market and really road test these ideas. And the best thing you can do at the early stage is road test these propositions. And if they don't stack up in the mind of key opinion leaders in a particular area, then that's the best time to really, you know, put a line through those ideas and move on to the, you know, the next thing. The next point, of course, is once you have described what the scale of the problem is that you're looking to address and really convinced yourself that a true market need exists, clear elucidation of the product that you're developing and how it will address the market need is of paramount importance. And, you know, I've got this own kind of internal rule in my mind, which is backed up by precisely no science whatsoever, that the, you know, how compelling and differentiated a proposition is inversely correlated to how much time it takes to actually describe the product. If you're, you know, developing a Me Too product which addresses a very, very niche market, describing that proposition is likely to take far longer to really describe the compelling aspect than something which is truly innovative and truly differentiated. Those propositions you can usually elucidate, you know, in the typical kind of elevator pitch scenario. So, you know, get very succinct in terms of being able to describe the product fit. And if you find yourself really having to go into the weeds of where the product will fit into the market, there's a good chance that it isn't actually as disruptive as you may have thought. Of course, when, you know, building a commercial proposition, it's extremely important to differentiate, you know, versus the competition. And again, being able to very crisply delineate where your product will stack up within the competitive field is important. You know, it's very likely that when you go out to pitch an idea or when you put in an application to a program such as this, there will be competitors out there. And sometimes you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you present a very, very busy competitive landscape, investors will often say, well, the competitive landscape is super busy. We don't really feel as though there's enough space for a new product in this particular vertical. If you go to the other extreme and you say, well, actually there is no competition in this space, then investors also start getting suspicious as to why are there no other competitors in this space? Is the market opportunity really that compelling? So be very succinct in the way you describe how your product is going to stack up versus the competitors, and why you essentially are going to win in this space versus the competition. Once you've sort of described the fact that you will be able to establish a competitive differentiation, as has been described very succinctly previously, it's important to be able to discuss how this is going to be defended. At the very early stages, having granted patents in place, that is often difficult. Freedom to operate analyses are very costly, and so it may be difficult to have those in place as well, that type of analysis in place at an early stage. But at least being able to elucidate what the IP strategy is going forward is important. So the proposition can be defended really in two ways. There's sort of formal IP, which are bits of paper, patents, etc., which you can sort of hold up against a potential competitor, and then also importantly know-how, which is very important at the early stages when building a proposition, really bringing in the right people, the right individuals who have the knowledge base to to differentiate a proposition. If you're working with the world leader in a particular machine learning vertical, for example, then just by virtue of the fact that you have that individual within your team is a differentiator, and it will give you that kind of edge over the competition. And this brings me on to perhaps the most important point when building a proposition at the early stage, and that's the team. Having the right team in place is extremely important. And the very well-seasoned investors that I have worked with in the past, they're very, very particular about the executives that they bring into a particular company. They're more than willing to wait a year and a half to really bring in the right CEO, rather than rush and bring in the wrong individual, because reversing those types of decisions can be lengthy and detrimental to the success of a company. So really having a good team in place at the get-go is important. Having a balance of expertise, having somebody who brings the academic gravitas, having somebody who brings sort of the commercial flair, having the attention to detail person on the team who's more than happy to pore over the Gantt chart, more than happy to spend a lot of time building out the Excel spreadsheets, building out the financial models. Having that blend of skill is important. The charismatic CEO is able to get up on stage and really paint the vision. Oftentimes that individual is not the same individual who's more than willing to sit down and go through the Gantt charts in granular detail and really build out the milestones and check cell by cell that the Excel spreadsheet and the financial model is correct. Which then brings me on to the next point, which is really understanding the financing strategy. When you go to investors, you really want to be able to say in a very crisp fashion, this is how much capital the company needs. These are the milestones that we're going to achieve with those particular, with the cash that's being raised. And these are the value inflection points that we foresee for the future, i.e. how much cash do you need now? Where is that going to get you? Why are those milestones important? Why is it worth getting to those milestones? And then ultimately, how much cash is it going to take to get the business through to an exit? Because ultimately, the investor, when they're sitting in a pitch, that's the thing that's kind of buzzing through their mind is, how lucrative is this opportunity? What does the exit potential look like? How much cash will it take to get to an exit? What does the company really need to look like to be in a position to be sold or potentially listed on the stock market? So these are the types of things which are important to push probably towards the end of a pitch or towards the end of an application form with regards to a program like Imagine If. The whole process really is walking an investor through the risk-reward profile and convincing the investor that the reward outweighs the risk. And that's really what you need to do in any kind of application or in any kind of pitching scenario. Again, advice for future applicants, as I've mentioned previously, really think through the market need, know your numbers inside out, be concise when describing the competitive positioning, and build a team that you want to work with, right? As I've mentioned previously, entrepreneurship is a difficult journey. The sector that I'm familiar with, which is biotechnology, is a particularly challenging sector. There are going to be difficult times when building a business in that particular sector. So surrounding yourself with individuals that you want to work with is super important. And also showing the judges that you can work cohesively as a team and that you're sort of committed to a proposition is very important. I mean, I've literally been in pitches where the founders are kind of arguing amongst themselves in a pitch, and that does not really reflect well on how cohesively a team is going to work together going forward. So they're just some high-level comments, and I hope some of them were useful.
Thank you so much, Sohaib, for your really great advice. I just wanted to thank our speakers again. Thank you so much, Sohaib, David, Ivan, for speaking to us. It was really great experience. As Sohaib mentioned, I really learned a lot out of this. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our two next events. One is about COVID-19, and the next one is about the climate crisis. Thank you everyone for attending, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you
want
very
to
much.
add me to LinkedIn? Happy to connect.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. See you.
That's really informative.